and to everybody last night, I'm so sorry. Open bar, not disciplined, me, was not a good mix. No, I had a wonderful time last night. So thanks that we had that to meet people. It's so great to see you all today, all of these researchers in the room together. Today will be a call to arms. I know in the past, this thing called data science has been looming over us, and numbers, and people are going, where are the people? Where are the people? We're over there, nobody's listening to us. This is the day that you get the call to arms, that you are an equal and necessary partner in this new world of technology that we're going into. So, are you ready? Yes. The revolution has begun. So, the reason why I call this talk Toward a More Perfect Union is that in some places there's a spectrum, right? Some people work with data scientists on a daily basis, like myself. Other people don't even know where they sit or where they are on their campus, right? And so I understand that there's a spectrum here. And so what I want to talk about is how can we take wherever you are in your partnership with data science as a discipline, as also data scientists as people, and move it just a little bit closer to a more perfect union. So your perfect union may not look like your neighbor's perfect union, but we're going to talk about how to get it a little bit closer together. Today's agenda. I'll do the speaker intro really quickly because Matt did a great job. I have to do the IDEO commercial. And then we'll talk about getting very married. What does that mean? We're going to take this metaphor all the way through, people. And then we'll talk about trading zones. What's that? And then we'll wrap up with ecotones. Ooh, what's that? And then we'll have Q&As. We won't. That's being optimistic. I got a lot of stuff to get through the day. So if you want a Q&A, my email is osamson@ideo.com. We'll have an online discussion where we can all talk, but I got a lot of stuff to get through today, and I hopefully will, unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna get to the Q&As. Who am I? I'm a design lead. My jam is AI, intelligent system, and software design. I have a weird history. Starting off as an English major, communication major, and then going back at 30-something to get my computer science degree. My dad my mom and my father met at the library. My dad would go to the library every night after working for CTA in Chicago, and to put punch cards into big computers at Harold Washington Library. And my mom she was like the last librarian who worked at night. And so they started a relationship. And out came me, the nerd of the century. This is the commercial. We're a global design company. We're in it used to be 9 cities, now we're in 8 cities because Palo Alto is RIP. We're all over the world. We work in cross-disciplinary teams who are dedicated on one project at a time. So at any given time, I'm working with an anthropologist or a historian or journalist or rocket scientist, this is a true story, to design new products. Just a bit about IDEO Chicago. IDEO Chicago was founded in 1991, and it has about 80 designers. And the only reason why I talk about IDEO Chicago is that when I started at IDEO about 3 years ago, my first project was with this data science firm called Datascope. It was a Chicago-based firm of all data scientists, and I spent about 1.5 years working as a researcher embedded with data scientists. They were leading the projects, and I was the guest. And so when people would say, how's it working at IDEO? I'm like, I don't know, I work at Datascope. No, I was loaned out, and then IDEO acquired Datascope. And this is Mike Stringer, who's the co-founder of Datascope, and Justin with the tattoos, he's a portfolio director at IDEO. Us being IDEO, we didn't just sign a contract to acquire a company, we had a marriage ceremony where the founders of IDEO, of Datascope, this data scientist firm with 15 data scientists, and our managing partners and all of our design leads got together and had a vows. We talked about being 2 committed partners coming together to create something new. See, this marriage metaphor really works, right? Anybody know what this is? Anyone?
I think this is the record keeping for tribal community or own ownership records or something like that?
It's a recording device. Actually, it's made out of bones, but yes. And it's the Ashago bone. And it's kind of like, it was founded 20,000 years ago in 1960 in between Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. And it's what's called the oldest counting ledger ever. Now, many historians and archaeologists have tried to figure out what are those niches and patterns. That's how they figured out it was counting, because there are 6, then there's 7, then there's 9. So there are different patterns. What do you think they think this is? Ladies and gentlemen, it's the first period calendar, right? If you count the number of days, it follows a cycle of the lunar cycle, and they think that this is a woman who is marking her period. So why do I bring that up? I bring that up because all data is created by people. All people create data. All right, say it with me. All data is created by people, and all people create data. So the next time somebody says, hey, let's do this data-driven project, you say, all data is created by people, and all people create data. And I want to start this talk off right there, because you're already equal. If you are a person who studies people, then you are a person who understands data. You understand why data is created, you understand how data is transformed, you understand how data is communicated. You are an equal partner in this debate and in this discussion. Everybody feel that? Everybody own that? Moving on. So I love this quote by Audrey Hepburn. She says, if I get married, I want to be very married. So if you really want to make a perfect union, you got to be all in, right? You can't just be on the sidelines grumbling about those data scientists who are taking over your budgets and your time and your executive lunches. How did that guy get to go with the VP? You have to be in it to win it. And you can, because you are an equal partner. Because all data is created by people, and all people create data. And we don't need people to study data. We need people to understand people and their relationship with it. And so you belong at that union, but you gotta be in it to win it. When you marry design research and data science, you can produce powerful insights about the complexity and systems barriers to a human-centered design experience. This is the magic, people. We're gonna talk about how to get to this magic place. It's important that each discipline is seen as an equal partner with the same goal, developing innovative products and services that serve human needs. Each are integral to the process. You can do one without the other, but together they are better. This is our mantra that I just made up. So HJ, you just tell IDEO that Ovetta just made up a new mantra for us. Sandy saw this, so I think I'm okay. But Sandy's our new CEO, by the way. But this is how we think about data science at IDEO. We had to change some paradigms, and I'm being real with you. When you acquire a data science company of 15 people, they came in like a gang, right? They all knew each other, they all practiced the same discipline, and they came into IDEO and literally overnight changed our human-centered design practice. Every team will probably work with a data scientist probably in the next couple of years. I have only worked on projects with data scientists, and so my job as a researcher has flipped overnight. And all the things that I thought that I knew, I'm learning new things. So,
yeah, I'm working on it. I just got to back through the phone system.
all All right. Is this how you see data scientists, right? That guy in the chair, right? He gives you that jet fuel that you need with the numbers and stuff, and then you go out and do the real stuff in the real world. So that's not how we look at data science. At IDEO, we think about data science a little bit differently than other companies. And I'm not saying that because we're better, I'm just saying that because we had to have a mind shift. And we consider data scientists to be designers who practice the algorithm building craft that underlies the building of intelligent systems and services and products. They are designers, and they have a craft, and they practice it with us to produce human-centered intelligent systems and products. And yes, they can visualize data, and yes, they can qualify and analyze data. That's something that they do as a skill, but their superpower lies in their systems thinking approach to human-centered design. They allow us, with their skill sets, to see inside systems and networks and barriers to people doing what they really want to do and serving human needs. That's Joe Gambino. He's one of those data scientists that came almost 3 years ago. And when I started interviewing data scientists for this talk that I wanted to talk to, I was like, what do you want researchers to know? And he was a Spider-Man reference, by the way. He said, look, I don't want to be your guy in the chair, right? I want to be in the field with you. I want to be doing research with you. I want to understand and see what you see. And then I want you to see what I see when I look at data or when I look at people who are doing anything with data. And I think this is really important because we have to start at a place that looks at data scientists as people first. And I know that may sound weird, but some people don't. Some executives, some designers have no idea what they do and no idea what they want to do because they don't ask them. And I think as leaders in our research respective places, it is about our time to figure out who they are as people. And I think this will help you to bridge that union. You got to start dating people, right? You got to start walking up and saying, hey, let's go have some coffee. Let's go talk a little bit. You got to bring them to the field, right? You got to make them understand what you do as a practice because they can't value what you do if they don't know what you do. You got to avoid that stereotype threat. And a stereotype threat is when you treat somebody in a way that makes them feel like they have to live up to that stereotype for their group. So if you're treating them like the guy in the chair, and if you're treating them like the numbers guy, and if you only call him in to analyze a bar graph, then their performance may suffer, and their collaboration with you may suffer. And my friend David Cameron, when I was at Chi a couple of weeks ago, he's at the University of Sheffield, and he did a research study on affectation in data science workers. And he studied data science workers throughout their careers for a period of time. And he found out that they put a lot of emotion into their work when they're extracting data, when they're exploring data, and it's a very emotional process for them. But everybody treated them like the numbers guy, and so they felt very isolated. So guess what? I'm starting with a little empathy here, right? Don't isolate them any more than they already are. Bring them in. Let them learn. And then it will start a partnership that you two can be allies in changing the executive's mind about why you two need to be together. There are other barriers to research and design as a union that may seem out of your control. Lack of infrastructure support, right? Siloed barriers. Our data scientists work in this department, our researchers work in that department, and even personal ones like low data literacy. I don't know how to speak about data. I don't really understand what they do. So we'll address the ones that you can take care of as leaders, but also how you can get together and take care of those other institutional ones. So whenever I bring up data scientists and researchers working together, people always talk about mixed methods, hybrid insights, right? I see some heads. You go out, you do your ethnography, you get some data, then you bring in the data scientist and you say, hey, look at this, and make some graphs or whatever. I'm not being dismissive of that. I think mixed qualitative and quantitative has its place, but I'm talking about something that is more than proximity. I am talking about when you can influence each other's methodologies from the beginning. When you have a collaborative partnership with a data scientist who can come to your discussion guide and own part of it, who can decide who needs to be talked to or interviewed, when you can decide what data needs to be extracted, what data is missing, what data is excluded in their models, this is a powerful union that changes the way that human-centered products are designed. And people talk about this ethics stuff, right? Oh, we need more ethics in AI. This is where it happens. It happens before the models are made. And if you cannot have what I call lovingly an investigative interrogation or discussion with data scientists, then as a researcher, you're missing out on the way to influence their model building. Proximity is not enough. I'm talking about transdisciplinary understanding acumen here. So I always talk about I have to give examples outside of IDEO because IDEO is so weird. It's like Disneyland for wherever, if you're a researcher. And so I came across this blog by Spotify. They spoke at Epic about basically saying, hey, we're just gonna put our data scientists and researchers together to produce better insights. I thought, that is really cool. They have a shared team. Both groups are part of the insights team. They have a distributed structure, so they work on product teams, but they come back and work together. They have mixed methods, which is great, but mixed methods leads to shared knowledge. And this is where we want to go. We want to go beyond mixed methods into influence. And the shared insights and storytelling is where that influence shows up in a partnership, and I'll give some examples. Both contribute to insight externalization to client's department. It's not just the research department saying, here are the insights, right? This is where the superpower, what I call, lies. IDEO works kind of the same way with our new data scientists. We have a distributed cross-disciplinary structure, so both are embedded on projects. We have data scientists who lead projects, lead research, right? They're designers just like everybody else. They influence what kind of data we collect, and when I say data, I mean interviews, observations, all of that, not just numbers. They can influence who we talk to. And I feel as a researcher, this is not taken away from what I do, it's making what I do much better, because increasingly, we will be working on projects that include complex systems that are interdependent, that are not single digital products anymore. And you need people like data scientists who are systems thinkers to help you see through to get to innovation. Having them on your side is so much better than having them divorced from you. We do shared insights and storytelling. I'll give some examples. So that both of us externalize insights. We're a united front. And we speak up in meetings when people say, so the real designers, and I'm like, oh, you mean us and the data scientists? And when they say, so the real research, and they say, oh, you mean qualitative observations? Yeah, so we're code switching for each other because we see that we need each other. And when you have this type of partnership, data scientists will understand that design research is not ancillary to their practice. It is essential to the models that they build. No data scientist wants to build a model that isn't used, right? That has no use for it in the world. And so they need you to make that model really real for people and usable, and serves a need. So let's get to our trading zones. Why do I have this up here? What's establishing a trading zone? Besides being able to put my baby Jason, well, I know he's married, but a girl can hope. So trading zone, and I'm going to my notes here because I don't want to mess this guy's name up. So there was a physicist named Peter Gallison He's a Harvard physicist. And back in the 70s, he was trying to get physicists from different paradigms, string theory, God principle, all these people together to work with engineers and mathematicians to create a new product. And they kept bumping heads because they were always talking about their divergence, right, their differences. And so he created this framework called the trading zone. And back in the frontier days, when people were trying to, like, new tribes were moving and nomadic, and they would come up on a new tribe, there would be two choices, war or trade, right? And so he studied how they landed on trade. And one of the things that he found was if they had a common exchange of value. He said they could even disagree about the components that came up with those values, but if they came together and said, hey, we share these, this rock is the same as that leather, then we're okay. Even if one tribe thought rock was better than leather. As long as they came up with shared values, it was great. And so how they did that was a shared common language. So you knew how much a rock was worth in leather, or rock, whatever, soil, whatever you want to trade. And so I think we can use this framework for data scientists and us. Creating a shared language, developing shared storytelling, and building social scaffolding to increase knowledge. Those are, I think, three main things that you can do as a leader to help bridge these unions. I'll talk about each one. I only got 16 minutes, so we'll see how we get. Create a shared language. So, when we're talking about a shared language, I'm not just talking about understanding what data points are or reading a chart. I'm really talking about being able to fluently communicate about data science in a way that you can influence the way that a data scientist does this job. And for you to be able to do that, do you have to create algorithms? No. Should you know how they're created? Yes. I don't work on cars, but I understand the combustible engine, right? And I can take it to my mechanic and say, hey, that knocking sound, fix that. I know that that's wrong. I don't know how to do it, though. But we can have a shared conversation about it. And Google helps you anyway. So boosting you and your team's data literacy is a must. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to lay down arms here, but it's also a two-way street. Boosting their literacy about what you do as research is a must. They have to understand why we do what we do as researchers so that they can understand how to influence it in a way that will lead to more human-centered products. So inviting data scientists to the field, giving them training on how to do observation, giving them training on how to conduct an interview, making them lead, they hate this, I do it all the time, making them lead interviews. Maybe you start the interview and then say, okay, Nat is one of our data scientists who wears black all the time and doesn't like people. And I pick on him. AJ knows this. And I pick on him and I say, okay, Nat, you got any questions for Martha, right? Because when Nat asks questions, I guarantee you he's asking a different question than I'm gonna ask because he's a systems thinker. He thinks in codependencies. And I love it when he's talking to research subjects because he's trying to figure out what the barriers are to them in connection of networks. And then he flips that around and figures out what systems and data correspond to that. Partner with them on research planning. This is so key, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Define data as a stakeholder. Do you interview your data? You should. Do you talk to people who are the arbiter of data at systems and companies? You should. Why? All data is created by people. All people create data. If you study people, you have got to be studying data. You have to study how data is created, transformed, transferred, and manipulated, right? We can't influence model building if we don't understand how data flows through systems. Identify key people with access to data you want to add to your recruitment list. Your discussion guide, does it include that IT guy? I have an IT guy on every one of my discussion guides. I send it over to our clients. I don't know who he is, But I always say, he's the guy that if he did not come to work today, all of you would be in trouble. Oh, Bob, or Ben, or John. There's one in every company, right? That guy knows so much, and nobody talks to him. Find that guy. Talk to him. Work with data science on data requests for projects. Don't just leave that to the data scientist to do. Sit by him and say, why are you requesting that? What are you going to do with that? Data scientists love to talk about what they do. They don't see it as an infringement on their practice. So exposition is a key moment here for you guys to be better partners. All right, we're going to zoom through this. What level of data literacy should you have to be able to make this union? I think you should be able, on a Likert scale, 1 being not confident at all, and 4 being very confident. How confident are you at reading data? Let me hear, let me see. 1s, all right, 2s, 3s, 4s. Overachievers. How confident are you at working with data? 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s. How confident you are analyzing data? 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s. Overachievers. How confident are you at arguing with data? 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s. All right, you 4s, good for you. The rest of you are just like everybody else. My friends at the Data Literacy Foundation says that 76% of executives are very not confident in any of these. So you're right in line with your CEO. No, I'm just kidding. Not your CFO. He should be able to do that. Or she. So I think that when we talk about what's the bar for data literacy, I say you should be able to understand the raw dough that data scientists handle before they build models. And what do I mean by raw dough? Learn how data is cleaned, extracted, understand how it's collected and stored, and understand how to visualize it. I think these are all you need to be able to have that investigative discussion with your data scientists. And I feel like if you can get this, and you can get this out of a basic intro to data visualization class, you don't really even have to take Python or algorithms or anything like that, because most algorithms are pulled off the shelf anyway. So you don't have to learn how to build that. But I think this is a key where you can start this conversation, where you can start influencing how they build their models. So when I do a discussion guide, especially on a service project, more and more on an experience project or service project, I'm talking about systems and networks and people using tools and data to do their jobs, or to apply for something, or to get something, or whatever. This is part of my request. We call it looking in, but this is part of our how we go and talk to companies to say, okay, I need to sit down with your IT guy, and we need to do some observations and talk to them, maybe an hour, blah, blah, blah. Customer engagement, anybody in your customer service who is engaging with customers, collecting data on customers, we want to see the systems and tools that they build and where that data goes. Data management, where does data go once it's created? I need to see how it's mapped, what's data's journey, and how many people hit it. We do a thing called data mapping. So we match the data flow with the people that it flows through, so we can pinpoint transformation of data. Real key for ethics. It's really key to understand how data is transformed and transferred among people, because people tend to do stuff that they're not supposed to do. That's what happens on observations. Ethnographers know this. We know that the CEO knows and thinks that everybody puts in their time card the same way. And we know we can just sit there for an hour and find 6 different ways that people put in their time. We need to put that stuff together, right? On the right is my notebook from an interview. On the left, same information in a different way. Parallel synthesis. Synthesizing observation, interviews with data exploration synthesis. So Nat and I, we just worked on, this comes from a project that we had for a pediatric children's cancer hospital. And we were redesigning the patient experience. And so the left is wait times. The right is me talking to a nurse, telling me their busiest times, right? It was really clear that everybody was coming in at one time and leaving at another, which is why they had long wait times. So Nat and I kind of got together, and we kind of synthesized. So he went and got all the charts and data, and I went and got all the notes that we made, and we kind of sat there and said, okay, where's the insight? You know how insights come. Right? It happens for me like that. But parallel insights leads to this, shared storytelling with data and people. Don't split them up. Sometimes people think I can tell the story with data better, or I can still tell the story with people better. I'm saying they're better together. When you create data-infused research insights to illuminate, you can illuminate better design opportunities. Remember I talked about those systems, right? Those networks. When you synthesize with data scientists of what you observe in the field, you can come back with better insights into better design recommendations, because you not only see, when I'm interviewing people, they tell me what their problem is from their point of view. So I interview a lot of people, so I have 6 points of views. But the system has it all. It could see everybody's point of view at the same time. And that's what a data scientist can help you see. And when you put that together and put that as an insight in front of a client, that is so powerful. One of the things that has added to my arsenal as a researcher working with data scientists is I do a lot of simulations now. Remember you used to do those little paper prototypes, and then you would stand there and you would say, now, CEO, if you really take these insights out and create this product, then this will happen. And the CEO is like, I'm supposed to believe that? Right? Now we can build that. So that wait time, this is what we built. I did the ethnographic research, data scientists, we went out, Children's Hospital, interviewed nurses, patients, and they all said the same thing. It's chaos. I have an appointment, I show up, my appointment is, I have to wait 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours for life-saving medication. So I did, me being the researcher, got the really good quotes, put the photos up there, made the poster, and the CEO of the hospital and the VP of the clinical head of medical, he's the guy that Harvard calls, right? He doesn't call Harvard, Harvard calls him. This is how smart this guy is. He's like, yeah, we know that. I was like, So Nat and I go back, and we're like, we have to make them feel the weight and the aggregation of missing appointments over and over and over again. So we did it by the individual, but we got to aggregate that. This is a photo of, I was working 5 weeks in New York at our New York studio. HJ know this. And we saw the client was collecting a lot of data on people. But when we were going out to interview them, they were like, anything they send me is really not relevant. I feel like they don't know me. They don't understand me. So we came back and we were like, you're collecting all this data. Why don't you know these people? And the problem was there was a disconnect between the type of data that they were collecting and the benefits that they were returning to the people. And so as a researcher, I said, look, I have to get what these people really want with their data. I have to understand these trade-offs. And so I have to make data real. And the realest thing I know is money. So we made a game called Data Monopoly. We made currency like your birth date, your zip code, medical information, your credit card, and we gave it a weight. So red money was the highest and green money was the lowest. And we put benefits on a table, and I worked with a data scientist who ran simulations to see how many times people could roll, how many turns they could have to make this a real game. And people loved it. I had been doing interviews with people for years about what they wanted to do with their data. And every time they would say, oh, everybody knows everything about me. I don't really care. And when we played this game, we got into it, man. This woman, she landed on personal chef to make all your foods. And then the back card, the cost was her medical information. And she had previously said, I would never give my medical information out. But she was like, man, if I get somebody to personally make I could see why they need my blood type. I could see why they need, okay, fine. So that would have never happened if we hadn't worked together to make it. Building social scaffolding, I got 20 seconds, so I'm getting through this. I was at Kai, we were talking about how to get data scientists together, and I was like, respect the side hustle. Like, work on passion projects with data scientists. And one of the guys who was from Cornell said, oh, you're talking about building social scaffolding. Okay, great. That's the term for it. It's social scaffolding is when you learn something that somebody else knows by that person doing that activity with you. So lunch and learns, power of the side hustle. I'm obsessed with synthesis. Me and the data scientists got together and was like, how can we create a new synthesis tool? How can we create sentiment analysis? So now we're working on this tool. Doesn't have to be for work, but internal projects are great to start. Love This by Brian Fu. It's data-driven DJ. He just took demographic information from New York, set it to the A train, and mashed it up with musical notes, and you can actually hear it change when it goes through each neighborhood. Side hustle. He didn't know anything about data science. Using GANs to generate band names and album covers, right? Generative adversarial networks. It's a very advanced data science and deep modeling tool, but two guys were into bands and music. They got together and created this tool to generate weird album covers and weird band names. Side hustle. And this is where we get to ecotones. An ecotone is a place in a habitat where two different habitats meet, right? So you have winter forest over here, and you have tropical lush over here. And in the middle is a space that has richer habitat than either of the other two by themselves. That's what you want to create, an ecotone in your organization, where you and the data scientists come together and create a richer habitat to create more human-centered designs. And I know that I rushed through that, but that's it.